right, let me get a woo. All right, let's reset. So this is such an incredible opportunity to introduce not only my friend, but somebody who's been a mentor to me, someone who's employed me over the years. Even though I left to go on my entrepreneurial journey, he likes to say he fired me, which is always a really funny joke in crowds, which is good. But I also want to say that if you do know and ever heard of Ryan Deiss, how many people have heard of Ryan Deiss before in the room? Yeah. How many seen an ad, seen his face? If you haven't heard of him, early on, probably the best marketer in the world, probably one of those in that same conversation. But then since then, doesn't even identify as a marketer before, because my man has, and with his team and his partners have built a $200 million business portfolio. So when you're talking about building businesses, scaling businesses, how they've done it, the operating systems in place and what they've had to do in order to get to that level, this is the most incredible opportunity for you to learn from somebody that is an absolute expert in building, growing, and starting businesses. That is an incredible opportunity for us this morning. It's going to be an invigorating session. And also just wanted to give a quick shout out, because if you're a VIP, these books are in the VIP room after this. Ryan's going to be back there. You want to make sure you meet him, talk to him, grab a book. There's also, for everybody else, there's books over in the Trainual area of swag, so you can grab yourself one over there too. But that being said, I would have to, if I introduced Ryan and didn't say this, I think it would be a miss. But a couple weeks ago, we were out in Austin, Texas. Anybody from Texas in here? Yep. Oh, one person? If you're from Texas, how did you not go, woo? All right. Well, we were out in Texas and we were playing golf on this guy's birthday, and he got a hole-in-one, guys, you know? And one person clap for you, right? I just want to say it because I didn't want you to think he gets up here and he opens with that, and he's not a liar, all right? Without further ado, can you guys give me a huge round of applause for the CEO and founder of Scalable, Ryan Deiss.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely the coolest moment in my entire life. And I have 4 children. I've been married for 20 plus years, and easily the coolest moment of my life, and I would say that in front of all of those people I just mentioned, was when I made that hole-in-one. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. Pinnacle of human existence. Also, completely freaking luck. And I do think there's a lot of business analogies there. Is anybody in this room what we would classify as an accidental entrepreneur? Anybody? And we think about an accidental entrepreneur. These are people who you didn't necessarily go out there and create the perfect business plan. You maybe didn't go to business school. You may not have a degree at all. You just kind of started scratching your itch, chasing some of your ideas, and you turned around one day and you went, holy crap, there's a business here. Does anybody? That's what happened to me. I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I just set out to say, I need to make some extra money. I turned around and what I discovered is, oh crap, I'm in business. And I think this happens to a lot of us. We accidentally do this amazingly awesome thing where everybody's incredibly impressed with us, and what most of us aren't willing to admit is we're completely freaking terrified because we have no idea what we're doing, and we're afraid that everybody's going to figure it out. And what I want you to know that is if you're in this place, this is a safe place, okay? It's a safe place. You're here because you're passively at least acknowledging that, and you're here because you want to learn. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to share a little bit of what I've learned along my journey over the last couple of decades in doing this, and specifically take you behind the scenes of our holding company. We currently right now have about a $200 million holding company. About 17 businesses make up that holding group. There are 6 that we actively manage. So 6 businesses that we are actively responsible for. And it's not just top line. We're fortunate we get to distribute tens of millions of dollars out there to my partners and I. So I just kind of want to talk about what we do, how we do that, and specifically how we do it without getting stuck in endless meetings, without being enslaved to our email inboxes, without enduring the endless gotta minutes and shoulder taps from team members, especially the ones who frankly should know by now, and without burning out. If this looks good, then you're definitely in the right place. So who am I? I'll keep this brief because I know you don't actually care. My name is Ryan Deiss. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. I'm a marketer. I'm an advisor. I've just always started businesses. I'll get into why I do that. I have a number of companies, the Scalable Company, digitalmarketer.com, some other ones you probably haven't heard of. I've been privileged to author some books. And one of my claims to fame, and you'll see in a little bit how incredibly not impressive this is, but I'm gonna say it right now so that if for only a brief moment, maybe you're just slightly impressed with me. One year, I had not one, not two, but 3 businesses simultaneously on the Inc. 500 and 5,000 list. Not one business appearing multiple years in a row. That's pretty cool. Not multiple businesses multiple years. 1 year, 3 businesses simultaneously on the list. Can I get a, ooh? Don't be impressed. I'll tell you the rest of the story. It doesn't end well. Okay, let's get into it. So again, my partners and I collectively started and acquired 17 companies. We've had 4 really, really significant life-changing exits, have advised in 100 plus more. Cheating a little bit, one of my business partners is a recovering attorney, and so we have an exit advisory company. 3,000 clients in over 47 countries, and most of what we get to do right now is partner come alongside businesses who are kind of stuck in that messy middle, where they're that too big to be small, too small to be big. And we want to help them scale up to the next level, hopefully partner with them in doing that. Mentioned before, we've got a portfolio. I don't tell you this because I expect you to be super impressed. I just want you to know that we actually do this stuff. And I think that's important because, man, there's a lot of people talking about this who either never did it or they did it a long time ago. And they're out of the game. They're out of the game. And because they're out of the game, a lot of what they talk about sounds like it should work. And maybe at one point in time it did. But it doesn't anymore because they're out of the game. Do any of you have children in this room? Do any of you who have children laugh when you see some 20-year-old giving productivity advice? Yeah, okay. I feel the same way when I see people who maybe at some point in the past maybe had a business and are now writing books on business scale. So we do it, we're in it, we're living it, multiple industries. B2B, B2C, online, offline, business services, home services, you name it. You name the business, pretty good chance we have been in it. And the question that I get time and time and time again is, Ryan, how do you run so many businesses without going insane? Get this question, how do you run so many different businesses without going insane? And the honest answer is, I don't. Not that I don't go insane. I do occasionally go insane, but I'm not the one that is doing it. We have a framework for creating business operating systems and for getting operators to run those businesses. So whether you're a business owner who would like to have a more systemized business and maybe somebody to come in and run this for you, or you're an operator who's maybe looking for an operating system to help do it, that's what I want to share with you. We had to figure this out because we had so many different businesses. We could not just through sheer force of will drag these businesses across the finish line of scale. And many of you do that. You have achieved the growth and the scale that you've achieved through sheer force of will. You chose violence. You're like, I'm just gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make it work. And it's a valiant effort and it's what makes us great. And it can get you a certain distance, but if we don't eventually make that pivot into what we're talking about today, it can be that thing that tears you down. Now I wanna confess it was not always like this. Quick, again, my story, I launched my very first business from my college dorm room. And I launched my first business from my college dorm room because early on, my freshman year, I met a girl. And I knew within 2 weeks of dating this girl that she was the woman I was gonna marry. Now this is important. I didn't tell her that because I know that's freaking creepy, okay? But I still knew. And what I knew at this point is I'm like, okay, this is fine. You know, I got a part-time job and I got some whatever, but at some point, Ryan, you're gonna have to figure out how to actually make some real money, especially if you wanna buy this girl a diamond ring. Because I don't know if you've checked, those things are expensive. And it was the first time in my life when I realized I'm kind of broke. And it kind of bothered me. So I was like, I'm gonna start this little side hustle just so I could make enough money so that maybe in a couple of years, if this thing works out, I can afford to buy this woman an engagement ring. That was it. And I know, by the way, that sounds freaking weird, okay? But fast forward a couple years, I got the ring and I got the girl. It worked, yeah. And what's cool is the business grew. That little side hustle that I did, it grew from one little website into 2 into 3 into like an actual little business turned around like many of you. Where did that thing come from? Where'd that business come from, right? Keep fast forwarding, so business grew, so does the family. My first why for launching my business was so I could buy this woman who I was in love with an engagement ring. My next why to scale it was, this European trip that we were having planned. before we started having kids. Well, that got canceled because my next little Y came along a little bit earlier than expected. 2 years later, another Y, another Y, another Y. You get the idea. And truth be told, I felt unstoppable. I felt like I had the Midas touch. Like I said, 3 different companies on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list in a single year. From the outside looking in, I was crushing life. My friends were jealous of me. Competitors feared me, right? I mean, it was like, whoa, that guy must have something going on. The problem is I was burnt out and I was miserable. Missing soccer games and dance recitals became a regular thing. Most days I would leave for the office before anybody woke up, and I was getting home after everybody was in bed. I would kind of see my family on the weekend, but I still wasn't there. I still mentally wasn't there. And one night it reached a breaking point. I remember I came home well after midnight, pulled into my garage, tiptoed through my living room, didn't want to wake anybody up, and I remember rounding the corner to my master bedroom and seeing this light coming in under the door of my bedroom, and I thought to myself, that's not good. That's not good at all. She should be asleep. Why is she awake? I remember slowly turning the handle, walking in, and there's my wife sitting up in bed. It's clear that she'd been crying, and I just kind of stood there for a little bit, wondering who was going to break the silence, and it was her. I'll never forget the words that she said to me that day. She said, "You can keep doing what you're doing. I know who I married. You can keep doing what you're doing, but you can't pretend like you're doing it for us anymore." And even now, I'll tell the story lots, and even now, it takes me back to that moment, and it's just crushing. And I think this happens to a lot of us. We start these businesses because we want more, because they're supposed to be this vehicle for freedom. They're supposed to be this vehicle for abundance. But then at some point in time, the very thing that is supposed to be the vehicle that gives us and all of those around us that we truly love, that it's supposed to provide for them, it becomes the very thing that takes us away from them. Or maybe that's just me and you're all doing perfectly fine. But as I look at some of the faces, I don't think I'm alone in this. Needless to say, I was gutted. But I knew she was right, and I knew I needed to make a change. I think sometimes we need people in our lives to hold up mirrors and say, "Do you like that? Do you like what you see? Is this what we wanted?" And I had to admit that no, it wasn't worth it. That this business that I started to buy her a ring, the business that I started to provide for these kids, it was now the very thing that was taking me away from them. She was right, and I couldn't pretend like I was doing it for them anymore. I was now doing it to just salvage my own ego. I was doing it, and I was basically willing to sacrifice my family, my health, and everything I held dear at the altar of scale. For what? For frickin' what? The story has a happy ending. We were able to smooth things out. And I'm going to tell you what we did, what we implemented to do that. But today, I am making it home for dinners. You know, if I miss one, look, it's still business. Sometimes crap happens and you got to stay late. It still happens. I'm not going to pretend like it's perfect. But yeah, if I'm late for a family dinner, I'm missing a soccer game, that's the exception, not the rule. But I love what Chris said about taking a month off to go to Antarctica, because that's what we do as a family. Every single year, we take a full month off and we travel around the world as a family. It's just now is something that we've done for the past few years, and it was one of the first agreements that I made with my wife. I said, effective immediately, I'm going to leave every day at 5, and we're going to take 30 days off. I don't know how we're going to figure it out, but we will. We will. So what was the difference? What made the change? What made it all possible? I'm going to tell you what we did. I'm going to start off by, though, telling you some things that don't work. And I want to just acknowledge some of the things I'm going to say that don't work might piss some of you off. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to kill maybe some sacred cows as we go through this stuff. But I do think that it is oftentimes more important to know the things that don't work than to know the things that do. Right? Charlie Munger used to say, I don't need to know when I'm going to die. I just need to know where I'm going to die so I know not to go there. Okay? I want to give you some places not to go, or tell you some things that if you're doing it right now and it's not working, you'll see why. So let's go over 5 things that that I tried that didn't work, and if you're trying right now and they're not working for you, here's why. First thing that doesn't work, another freaking time management system. Oh, I know, I just need to personally become more productive. Ooh, I know, there's this new app that I can put on my phone that's gonna track everything that I'm doing. This'll solve everything. I've got this tomato timer thing. I've got this new planner. New Year's coming. I hope you're all gonna come up with a new planner, because that'll fix it, just like the 73 you had before, right? With all due respect to David Allen, I'm not knocking this, but I will submit, this is not the answer. Okay? This is not the answer. You getting better at managing your time is not the answer, and the reason it's not the answer is because this statement is true, and I'd write it down. The more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. Think about that for a minute. If your business requires you, your business can never be sold without you. What that fundamentally means is it's not worth that much to somebody else. Because if you have to be attached to it and you get hit by a bus, their business goes to zero. So it's not worth very much to them, and I would argue it's not worth very much to you either, because if your business requires you to exist, you don't have a business, you have a job with a kind of crappy boss. Okay? The more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. If you believe this, and I hope that you do, then your goal should not be to become more efficient and to do more work. It's actually paradoxically to do less. How do we get this to a point where I don't have to do anything, where I'm the least productive person in this company, and you know what, stuff just happens. So I can go to Antarctica, or I can jog and be freaking fit like the Ronzio brothers, following those jerks. Eat a donut, guys, come on. All right. Here's another thing that doesn't work, and boy howdy, let me qualify this. So before you all start throwing stuff at me, and before they kick me off this stage, I'm gonna say it, you're gonna freak out, they're really gonna freak out. So just give me a second, okay? What doesn't work is trying to document everything. Cool, okay, so I did this. Have any of you read the book, The E-Myth? Yep, okay, so did I. I went on vacation, I read the E-Myth. I came back from vacation, I was like, we're calling an all-hands meeting. By the way, just know, anytime you're about to do that, you're probably about to do something real stupid, okay? Let's get everybody together. I read a book. Let's get everybody in the same room. Get everybody together. All right. If you hear the trumpets, you're about to do something stupid. Effective immediately. We're not going to greenlight any new projects. We're not going to make any new hires. We're not going to do anything until literally every single person in this company has documented every single thing that they are doing. Is everybody excited? Now, I was pumped about this. What do you think my team thought? This is a great idea, boss, thanks. No, half of them freaked out because they thought they were getting fired. The other half was just pissed off because they're like, you want us to do all of this in addition to everything else we're doing? Yeah, because I read a book, right? Am I the only one that's done this? No? Good. So I shut down the entire company for a month. And when we were done, we had it. Beautiful binders. With color, I tell you, the tabs were color-coded, y'all. You could flip through and there it was. And I remember putting them up on a bookshelf and looking and be like, we did it. Done. And literally nobody ever looked at one of those things ever again. Never. Now, am I saying that you should not create checklists and SOPs and playbooks? Of course not. I'm one of the keynote speakers at an event called Playbook, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying the sequence with which we do it, the methods with which we do it is very often off. So I'm gonna tell you right now, you don't need to document everything, at least not at once. What we need is a mechanism for figuring out what are those things we need to document first. Write this down. Again, this is really, really important. You don't need to document everything. You just need to document the truly critical. One of the biggest issues and challenges that we found when we first got on Trainual is we loaded up all of our checklists, all of our documents, and all of our SOPs. And the search function is great, the AI is great, but at some point, if you document everything, you can't find anything. Have any of you ever, when you were in school, got a little ambitious with your highlighting in books? And you proceed to highlight everything, and therefore you highlight nothing. Okay? I'm actually going to encourage you to raise the standards of what is worthy of documentation. Okay? At least at first. Here's another thing you don't need to do. The solution is not just to throw more people at the problem. And boy, we do this. It's not really a how problem, it's a who problem. You just need to get the right people on the bus. There's all this fortune cookie wisdom around just hiring human beings, and it sounds right, and in the abstract it is, and yet, what do? We got a problem over here. I know, I will take this human being who, all of us who are here right now, we don't know how to fix this thing yet. We've tried. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take another person over here, and we're going to pick them up and sling them at the problem. Fix it, right? How does that work out? Not very well. And I submit to you that if you find that the same people in the same roles are failing again and again and again, it's probably not a people problem. It's probably a systems problem, and that's because, again, write this down, good people don't fix broken systems break good people. We've seen it time and time and time again. So do you need to make critical hires? Yes. But again, sequence. Systems first, then the people. If you're hiring people into a role and you're not showing them how to do their job, you're setting them up for failure, and we do this time and time and time again. Here's the one that's gonna piss everybody off. You don't need a freaking integrator, okay? At least not yet. At least not yet, okay? This idea, and I'm not knocking Traction or Gino, I love these people. I think there's so many good ideas. But one of the greatest lies that I think has ever been perpetuated upon the entrepreneurial community is this notion that you, the founder, you're this beautiful snowflake. You just look at you. You're a precious little pet. And you know what you should get to do? You should just get to visionate all over the place. Visionate over here, visionate more over there, and you get an integrator and they clean up the mess. And it sounds really freaking fun, and it works exactly never of the times, okay? It just doesn't freaking work. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have an operator or any of these stuff. You should, but this idea that you can make one magical hire who's gonna just swoop in and just fix all the stuff that you broke when they don't have any context, it just doesn't freaking work. What winds up happening is somebody comes in and they attempt to fix it, but because they don't know what you know, they build an operating system for the business based on what they believe to be true. And when it ultimately isn't based on your vision or how things actually work, you start to undermine them, they get frustrated and they quit, or you fire them. Or they sit around and they wait for you to tell them what to do, and you've got about a 6-figure executive assistant. Or maybe I'm the only one that this has happened to. Nope, I don't think so, because you're all freaking nodding. So, this is true because this statement is still accurate, and it does apply to your operators as well. Don't set these people up for failure. Operating system first, then the operator. Now, if you've got an operator, and you see, how many of you are here? You got visionary and you got the operator with you? Okay, I'm not saying don't fire your operator. Okay, don't, like, you that's great. But mission number one is let's collaborate on this. So, my visionary CEOs, love you, mean it, you're not absolved from the system creation aspect of your business. You have to play a role in this, okay? This is your baby. You might have to change the occasional dirty diaper, all right? There's just no getting around it. It would be I'm sure my book would sell a lot more if I told people that. It just wouldn't be true. Now, there does come a time if you can get your business out of your brain, which last I checked, there's a company who has that as their slogan, then yes. But you've got to be a part of that process. You've got to be a part of that process. You cannot absolve yourself from it and just say, I'm gonna make one magical hire. They're gonna do everything. You let me know how that works out, because you're the heart and soul and the core of your business. You're at the center of your operating system. It's critical that you do that. Here's the last thing that doesn't work. I know, let's just grow ourselves out of this. Growth fixes everything. When we just grow to this next level, then we got it. When we just get to this next level, then we got it. The reason this is so pernicious is because at the startup phase, this is exactly accurate. When you're first getting started, the only thing you should be focusing on is growth. When you're starting your business, we've had people come to us and they're like, oh yeah, we really want to work on our systems and all this other stuff. It's like, how many sales you got? Oh yeah, no, we don't have any of those yet. It's like, oh my God, go make a mess. Go make a mess and then go clean it up. And that is absolutely the right advice from about 0 to $500,000, and then at about $1 million in revenue when you're run rate, it really is time to go. I mean, this idea that this rocket ship can continue to go and it's held together by duct tape, bubblegum, and hope, and you're going, oh, I know, let's go faster. This is not a good thing, y'all. And I've lived this time and time and time again. I've imploded more great companies because of growth, right? And you don't have to believe me. Believe the Inc. 5000 list. We got a lot of our clients, a lot of our portfolio companies that make this list year after year after year, and they report on it, and they brag, and we're really happy when they do that. How many of you, raise your hand if your company's hit Inc. 500, Inc. 5000 list. Raise it, raise it, raise it. Round of applause. Come on. It is awesome. Raise your hand if you would like for your company to hit the list. Most of y'all full of crap. Of course you would, right? Yeah, you do. Come on. It'd be great. Or maybe you don't. Let's look at, what do you think is the failure rate of Inc. 5000 companies? It's actually 67%. 67% of Inc. 500 and 5,000 companies fail at about the 5-year mark. Now, I know what you're thinking, but don't 95% of businesses fail? 95% of businesses fail if you got to 10 years. Your average ordinary business that doesn't make the Inc. 500 to 5,000 list, the 5-year failure rate is under 50%. People don't know that. They hear the 95% rate. That's true if you go out 10 years. At 5 years, it's about 50%. The failure rate is actually higher for Inc. 500 and 5,000 companies. And this is not my data. Kauffman Foundation in coordination with Inc. magazine. And how they allowed this data to get out there, much less actively participate in it, is beyond me. But sure enough, 2/3 of the companies that made the list had either shrunk in size, gone out of business, or been disadvantageously sold. So what's the difference? What separates the 33% that win from the 67% that fail? I can tell you, for me, I lived that statistic. Back in 2016, 3 companies. One of them, successful. Was able to splinter off one division, really, really nice exit. Like, existing company is still growing, still strong today. Those other 2 companies, one of them, the founder, our partner, couldn't get out of their own way. Felt like if something was going to be done, they had to do it. Every little thing. It was a software company. They wanted to do all the coding. They wanted to do all the marketing. They wanted to do all of everything. Because by God, no one could do it as well as them. Because of that, we lost ground to the competition, and ultimately it was disadvantageously sold to our number 1 most hated competitor. Some of us got our money back, most of us didn't. That was less cool. But hey, made the Inc. 500 list. Company number 3, the one that was the highest on the list, did $500,000 its first year, $3 million its next year, all the way up to $30 million in year 3. Only problem was, within about 90 days of appearing on the list, we had lost about $2 million, because it turns out that just because you make a lot of top line, that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a lot on the bottom. It is possible to spend more than you make, right? At all levels. And boy, we proved it. A couple weeks before the Christmas holidays, we had to lay off 180 people. And I don't know if any of you have ever walked into a room of people who you know had worked their tails off and done nothing wrong and had to tell them, I'm really, really, really sorry, but we got to let you go because we're not going to be able to make payroll. But it is not fun. But hey, we made the Inc. 500 list. Growth doesn't fix everything. 5-year failure rates, 67% is the Inc. 5000, 48% is all startups. But there's one group, one class of companies that only has about a 15% failure rate after 5 years, and that group is franchises. Franchises. So what's the difference? What's the difference? All franchises have operating systems basically by definition. So what's the solution? The solution is you got to upgrade your operating system. Because whether you realize or not, your business has an operating system. It does. It is simply what we refer to as a UOS. And that UOS, the operating system that is you, was more than enough. It was all the power that you needed to launch your beautiful little business into orbit. And if you know anything about planetary physics, we got any astrophysicists in the room? I didn't think so. Sum it up. In outer space, little things orbit around big things. Moons orbit around planets, planets orbit around suns, suns swirl around the middle of black holes. So in the beginning, when your business was little, the operating system that was you was more than enough to keep it in orbit. But then something happened, didn't it? And the thing that happened is exactly what was supposed to happen. And again, I think that's why this is so important. As we start to struggle at scale, we're struggling because we were successful. I want you to hear that. The people who go out there and they never really sell anything and their business doesn't grow, they don't have the problems that you have. They don't need playbooks and operating systems. They don't need that stuff because they don't have any of those pesky customers bothering them day in and day out, okay? But when your business grows and when it begins to expand, what happens? It's bigger than you. So now who's doing the orbiting around what? It's just math. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean your business is broken. It doesn't mean that you are fundamentally ill-equipped to run your company. You're not, and don't let anybody tell you need adult supervision to run your own freaking business. Pisses me off when I hear that garbage, okay? You have every right and ability to run your company at every single level of scale. You just need to know that the game has changed, and nobody tells us that. Nobody tells us that. The game has fundamentally changed. So what do we need to do? Again, you don't need to swap you out. We just need to swap out the UOS for a more scalable operating system. So let's define what an operating system is. I don't know the answers to a lot of things, so I asked the Googles. And I asked the Googles, what is an operating system? And the Google said that an operating system is a set of algorithms and a common language that enables different components to communicate with one another in support of the desired outputs of a machine. So an operating system really is three things. It's algorithms. It's the source code, right? When you think about your business, that is your processes and your SOPs. This is the source code that makes your business run. But we also need that common language. This is the one that people forget about. So in operating systems, this is the user interface. This is the keyboard. When I press K, does K show up on the screen? When I move the mouse this way, does the cursor wiggle back and forth? This is common language. In business, these are our scorecards. These are our meeting rhythm. We have to have a mechanism for communication. And then, of course, desired outputs. What are the goals and what are the objectives? So, lots of people talk about operating systems and company operating systems and business operating systems. There's not really a framework, though, for what exactly makes up an operating system. And I submit to you, it is these three big categories of things. It's these three big categories of things, and if you're missing any one of them, you're close, but an operating system, it is not, until we can get all these things together. So for us, we basically realized to get these three things, there's basically 6 individual tools, 6 individual assets that we need: value engines, playbooks, what we call the high output team canvas. I'll kind of walk through these pretty quickly, but again, all of these are in service of those 3 core categories. Those 3 core categories. So I'm going to very quickly go through our process. What do we do when we acquire a business? What do we do when we take on a new client? What do we do when a company enters our portfolio? How do we do integration? How do we upgrade the operating system? That's what I'm going to walk through, is this particular step-by-step framework and process here. So step number 1 is you must systemize the execution process. We have got to get you out of the day-to-day grunt work so we can get you some capacity so that you can just take a breath, okay? We've got to get you there. We've got to get it to where we can automate the doing of the job with people and with systems so that you can focus on the high leverage work. And again, just so you can go, okay, I got it. The first thing that we need to do this is we need to map our value engines. For our process, what I'm about to show you here, this is what fundamentally differentiates what we do from what everybody else does, okay? Because if somebody were to say, okay, we're going to upgrade your operating system, we're going to do this, they're basically, any book you read, it's going to go something like this. So what you need to do is you need to gather your leadership team. You need to do a 2-day offsite. You need to do some trust falls. And you need to figure out what your mission, vision, strategy is, right? This is no trust fall required, okay? That's freaking weird and everybody hates it. Stop doing that nonsense. And while I do think it's important to know what your mission, your vision, your goals are, I'm going to suggest that you not do it first. I'm going to suggest that you not do it first, and you'll see why. But I think a lot of what we do and a lot of what we call strategic planning, building operating systems, if we're really being honest, y'all, it's kind of just entrepreneurial arts and crafts time, okay? Let's create a vision board, posters with eagles in flight, okay? You roll this stuff out to your team, you know they are all laughing at you, right? They're rolling their eyes. There is a place for it. Just with everything else, it comes down to sequence. So I'm not saying don't do this, we're going to come back. I don't think it's the first thing that you should do. This is the first thing that you need to do. Visualize. Visualize. Give me a picture of how customers happen. This is to me, the most basic question that every business owner should ask, and yet none of us do. How do customers happen? How do we get them? It's the first question that I ask anybody who comes in our portfolio group. How do customers happen in your business? In my experience, most entrepreneurs can tell me, but they can't show me. You cannot optimize until you first visualize. We want to create a visual picture of how customers happen, of how clients happen. Once we've done that, now we've got another question. How do we fulfill for a customer or a client after the sale is made? All businesses do these two things at a minimum. You get customers or clients, you serve them once you got them. You get them, you serve them. You sell them, you serve them. This is what every single business on planet Earth does to create value in the marketplace. And yet most of us don't really know how that works. We haven't visualized it, so we can't explain it to our team, and yet we wonder why they don't know how their particular role fits in to things. We call these value engines. We did not invent this concept. If you go to business school, you might take a class on business process mapping or value chain mapping. If you hire a Six Sigma consultant to come in, they might have you do this. Our contribution to this space is we just rednecked it, okay? We just simplified it because you can do this yourself. So what is a value engine? A value engine is simply a visual representation of how a company creates and captures marketplace value. And again, all businesses sell stuff, we fulfill stuff, and we make more stuff to sell to the people. We sell the stuff, we fulfill the stuff, we make more stuff. Name any business and it does those three things. These are the three core value functions of every single business. We're getting back to first principles. It's where we need to start. So the process for doing this, for us, it starts with whiteboard and sticky notes. Like I said, I want to keep this simple. Whiteboard and sticky notes, and then eventually we can turn it into prettier flowcharts. But I want a visual picture, again, of how do customers and clients happen? And then what do we do with them once we got them? And at some point, if we want to talk about how do we create and update and improve our offerings, well, we can capture that as well. So the three types of value engines, there's growth engines, which of course are going to visualize how you get customers and clients. There's fulfillment engines. This is going to visualize how you deliver upon the promised value. And then the third type, which you can get to it later or not, innovation engines. How do you create, update, or improve your offerings? This one's really important if you do manufacturing, importing, those kinds of things. You know, if innovation is a big aspect of what you do, then maybe you want to visualize that as well. I want to walk through very quickly the process for doing this, though, because it's not that hard. And I just want you to know how to do this, because if you go back, I love what Marcus said, what's your one big thing that you're going to take? I hope for all of you, if you were to just do one thing and take one thing away, it's the process I'm about to show you, okay? Go back to your team and do this. So, we're going to start with how customers happen. And the process for value engine mapping is step number one. We ask the question, what is the triggering event? So if I were to say, how do customers happen? What's the triggering event that makes people aware that you exist? Does anybody in this room run Facebook and Instagram ads? Yeah, so you would simply write Facebook, Instagram ad on a sticky note. You'd put it up there. Do any of you exhibit at trade shows? Things like, yep, trade show exhibition. Maybe you have outbound sales. So we're going to purchase a list, a prospect list. That gets a sticky note. So what are all those initial areas where awareness is generated? All of those get a sticky note. That's where it begins. Now we want to go to the end and we want to say, where does it end? For the growth engine, it's really simple. Growth engines end when the sale is made. They bought the thing, the contract was signed. What we now have is scope. We've got the beginning, we've got the end. You simply go back to that very first sticky note and you say, okay, somebody's going to see our Facebook, Instagram ad. Then what happens? Well, then they're going to go to a landing page. Great, landing page gets a sticky note. Poof. Then what? Well, it depends. Ooh, it depends. Now we get to do this thing called a decision diamond. We can use a little diamondy thing. I like sticky notes because they come in two shapes, square and diamond. Just gook. If they opt in, then they're going to go here. If they don't, then they're going to go here. So anytime there's a fork in the road, cool, we'll just visualize that with a diamond. This is very, very, very basic business process mapping, okay? Many of you have done this. And we're simply going to say, then what, then what, then what, then what, then what, until we sticky note our way from the beginning to the end. When you are done with this, and I've seen this again and again, and you connect the dots, you will look at it and you will go, whoa, that's it. And your team that's there, they'll go, this is amazing. And you'll all of a sudden start to see, oh my gosh, this stage over here, we could make all these improvements over here. This thing over here, and we're not doing this stuff over here. We could do. Once visualize, just the ideas for optimization just burst in your brain because this is how we work as human beings. It doesn't have to take that long. We showed one of our clients how to do this. They posted this, they're like, we knocked 2 of these out before lunch. It doesn't have to take that long. What's the beginning? What's the end? Then what, then what, then what, then what? When you're done with your growth engine, do the same thing for fulfillment. Fulfillment engines begin where growth engines end. So you got that part. Somebody bought something. Cool. Then what? And this is important. Document what is, not what should be. The what should be will come later. For right now, we want to document what is. When we're done, we got whiteboards, or we'll sometimes do this, on sheets of paper, but that looks kind of like this. Y'all know something that I'm pretty excited about? A feature that Trainual just added? Because we've been begging them to do it. Flowcharts. Yep. Trainual just added flowcharts to this, so now you can not only do your value engine mapping inside of Trainual, but store them within Trainual. And as you're about to see, all those different little steps and stages can link off to things like playbooks and who's responsible for it. We're going to get to that in just a second. This is the foundation of everything. It's what nobody does, and it's why if you do it, your operating system will actually work. You'll actually begin to hand these things off. So at a minimum, 2 value engines, 1 growth engine, and its associated fulfillment. Many businesses that we have will have a couple, 3 or 4 growth engines, and depending on the number of product lines, you might have 3 or 4 fulfillment engines. That's fine. So you might have a half a dozen, but it's not 20 or 30, okay? It's not 20 or 30. So now we've got them. Value engine, check, done. Now let's talk playbooks. Because again, we don't want to say let's document absolutely everything. We only want to document the critical. How do you know the processes and procedures that are truly critical? I submit to you that if they are a function of your value creation flow, they're critical. The very first playbook, the very first checklist SOP that the team turned in when I shut down the entire company? The very first one, they're like, done, we got this one. Here you go, boss. You know what the first one was? Our process for requesting paid time off. Now, look, I want our people to take vacation. I do. I want to have a balanced lifestyle. But really? We got to get that one in first? That's the most critical aspect of our value creation process? No. Let's start with our customer client-facing things first. Let's do right by them, okay? Let's be truly client-centric, and let's exhibit that by documenting first the things that touch the clients. If it's growth engine fulfillment, it absolutely does. So what we do is we want to audit now these value engines. And auditing of these value engines is very simple. We go to them and we just ask this question: which of these steps and stages do we really not want to screw up? High frequency, high propensity for human error. These are what we refer to as power stages. Which are the ones that we can absolutely positively not afford to mess up? We create a running list. We used to do this in Google Sheets. You can now do this much easier in Trainual, and you can just have it set as a draft, in draft mode, right? So, but again, we don't start from, hey, person, what do you do? Document everything you do. We start from our value creation process and work backwards from there. This is what makes all the difference. This is what makes it all work. That being said, the best system is only as good as the people running it. So we want to systemize first, and we want to systemize first by prioritizing the value creation process. But now that we're clear on the playbooks that need to be created, and the thing that I'm really big on, just so you know, document while you do. Don't shut your entire company down. Chris talked about this morning. Document while you do. The person who's going to do that, say who's going to be responsible for this, cool. The next time you do it, fire up Loom, have somebody record it. The next time you do this process, document what you did, and let's get it into Trainual. It should not be a lot of extra work to go and do this stuff. But now we've got to connect the things we do with the people who are doing it. This is the high output team canvas. For us, we're going to go back to those value engines. See, this is the foundation of everything we do. And the question we're going to ask here is, who does this stuff? The way that most businesses create job descriptions and accountability bullets is we start with the person and we say, what does Bob do? We make a list of all the things that Bob does. Or we ask Bob, hey Bob, what do you do? And Bob will tell us all the things that Bob does. And Bob might even think that some of those things are actually important. How do we know for a fact that they're important? You don't start with the person, you start with how your company creates value. Not what does this person do, Who does this? What about this one? What about this one? What about this one? We go step by step, stage by stage. Who does this one? Who's going to make sure this happens? And each time we do that, again, we used to do this in a spreadsheet. We'd have this, there's all the people's name, and we'd have a column for critical accountability bullets. So anytime somebody's name comes up, we would put a little description next to their name based on that particular step or stage in the value engine. They do this, boop, there you go. Something kind of funny happens when you do this. First of all, when you go through it, whose name do you think is going to come up again and again and again? Yours. Who does this one? Me. Who does this one? Me. Who's it? Me, 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 me again, damn it. You're going to find that you got a lot of sticky notes with your name on it. You got a lot of critical accountability bullets on it next to your name. You're also going to find that there's some very well-paid people in your organization who have very few. Maybe they should get some of those sticky notes, don't you think? You're going to find some diamonds in the rough, some folks who could be doing more things because they don't have enough. You're going to see all this excess capacity within your organization, right? You're going to see people in addition to you who might also be overwhelmed and burnt out. Be like, whoa, look at all the things that Jan has. I bet Jan's about to freaking quit. Let's see if we can pull some of these off of her. When it's all there in black and white, it now becomes very, very obvious. And again, what I love about Trainual, I started saying not to make this a pitch for them, but it's their freaking event, so I'm absolutely going to pitch their stuff. In the org chart function, you can now drop all these critical accountability bullets down there. So it is a function of what they do. You can also, in the flow chart, link. If people are responsible for those steps and stages, it will link back to this, so it's clear who all does these things. How do you get free? How do you get free? It's not one magical hire. It's never one magical hire. You get free one sticky note at a time. When you have 0 critical accountability bullets with your name next to them, this is when you are free. This is when you have systemized the execution of your business. This is when your business can truly run without you, because every single step and stage of the value creation process can and will be done without you. No question about it, because all those critical accountability bullets are next to somebody else's name. This is how we build hiring plans. Which one of these do you want to give away first? Then what? You can go back, by the way, after you've audited your value engines. There's plenty of people on your team who won't be represented. You can create critical accountability bullets for them too, based on the work that they do. But let's start. Let's start with the value creation process. Let's get that part right, because everything else is going to be in service of that. With these done, congratulations, your algorithms are officially documented, and step 1 is complete. You have systemized the execution. Now what we need to do is systemize the optimization. How do we automate the process of fixing what's broken and turning good to great? How do we make sure that it's not completely dependent upon you to figure out when something is broken and then on you to swoop in and save the day? Does that drive anybody else crazy? It's like, I'm paying all these people all this money, and not only am I the only one who can fix anything, but they don't even realize when it's broken. Again, maybe that's just me, and you're all just crushing this, but I don't think so. So how do we do this? It's 2 things, but it does come down to common language. It starts with your scorecards. We keep our scorecards very, very simple. We use Google Sheets. Okay? We use Google Sheets, and it's not because I'm not aware of other business intelligence tools, and you can do that, but I like Google Sheets because it's simple. I like Google Sheets because it's manual. I want my people to input their own data themselves, because when people input their own numbers manually, they know their numbers. When they input their own numbers manually, they own their numbers. How does this happen? Go back to those value engines. How do we know these things are working? What metrics would we need to track to know that this one is working? What about this one? What about this one? We're not creating metrics based on department. We're creating metrics based on your value flow. Now what you have is scorecards that tell a story. At the top, we have our customer client acquisition. As we work our way down, we're moving across the customer journey. This is how we decide the metrics that we're going to track. As your businesses scale, your teams will have their own internal team metrics that they track separately, but I want a singular scorecard that everything rolls up into that I can look at. I want one company scorecard, one CEO dashboard that I can look at. And I can do this across all 17 companies in our portfolio today. At a quick glance, I can look at it and see how they're doing, right? It's really, really, really simple. We're gonna decide ahead of time, what is our target? What is our target for each one of these metrics? In other words, what is good? This is so incredibly important. Good is not subjective. No revisionist history. We don't decide after the fact, oh, you know what, we kind of missed our goals, but we tried really hard and we learned so much. No. If you want your company to scale and perform, you have to draw lines in the sand and decide ahead of time what good is. And when you win and you succeed, you celebrate. And when you don't, you simmer in that for a little bit so that everybody can get better. We're then going to track every week. I like to track on a weekly basis for these. So every Monday, our team runs in, and if you own one of these metrics, you're going to input your data on the scorecard. And when you input the data on the scorecard, you're going to compare the actual with the target, and based on the comparison of the actual to the target, you're going to create a color code. Green, on track or ahead of goal. Yellow, behind but with a plan to catch up. Red, behind and we don't know how we're going to catch up. Guess what? Your people don't want to have red on their scorecard. You know what that means? It means they show up to the meeting knowing their numbers, and when they're behind, they show up to the meeting with a plan to how to catch up. You want your people bringing ideas and solutions, not just problems to you. Have manual scorecards with manual color coding, and make sure that if it's yellow, they better put something next to in the notes column with a plan to catch up. And if you got somebody who's consistently on your team underperforming with no idea how to get back, you got the wrong person in that seat, and that's not you being mean, that's just the reality. I'm sorry, I love you, I mean it, I think you're a great person, but to occupy this role means that you know how to turn red to yellow and yellow to green. And if you don't, doesn't mean you're not a good person, it just means you can't occupy this role. So what is your job now as a leader? It comes really fun, actually. Execute the projects to turn red to yellow and yellow to green. We call this scorecard-based leadership. What should we prioritize this month or this quarter? I don't know. What metrics are red that need to be yellow? What are yellow that need to be green? I see our competitors doing this thing over here. Should we do it too? I don't know. If we implement this, is it going to turn a red metric yellow and a yellow metric green? Prioritization now becomes a lot more objective, a lot more systematic, and it becomes the kind of thing that your team can do because they're tracking the numbers themselves and they're arriving with the ideas, but it only works if you do this. Optimization needs to be a ritual, not a task. We need to ritualize this, and the way that we ritualize this process is through meetings. And I get it, most of you hate meetings. I'll ask people, fill in the blank. Meetings suck. It's what we get every time. What nobody ever says is meetings are the highest leveraged, most valuable time that I spend with my team every single week. I don't hear that very often, but it's what it should be if you got the right rhythm. This is ours. We do 3-year planning. I like 3 years. You can have like a 10-year BHAG or something like that if you want. But again, I like 3 years in terms of thinking about revenue and profitability, because in 3 years, it's long enough to be meaningful, but short enough to still be somewhat predictable. We then break that up into 12 quarterly chunks. So we do quarterly sprints. I like 90-day sprints. I really hate annual planning. You're all about to go and do it. And let's be honest, you did it every other year, and by February, it was like every other freaking New Year's resolution you did, you abandoned it. So can I just make a suggestion? Instead of doing annual planning for 2025, just do Q1. Just plan Q1. What are you gonna do in Q1? And stick to it. That's what we do. At the end of that quarter, we plan for the next quarter. Something kind of cool happens if you do quarterly planning. You wind up doing annual planning about every 4 quarters. It's magical. The biggest areas of feedback that we get from our clients and our portfolio companies after we start working with them is how much they love meetings. And I never would have thought this, but when I was going back and looking, we have got this Celebrate the Wins channel. And they're like, we've got 143% growth, and I owe it all to meetings. That's what we see again and again and again. Look at this picture. Here's us doing our planning. Look how happy our team is. They used to hate it, but now they love it. This is so much fun, right? Meetings can be fun if you adopt this rule. No scorecard, no meeting. I will not put a recurring meeting on my calendar unless there's a scorecard associated with it. What are we talking about? Are we agreeing on what reality is? You've walked into a lot of meetings to discuss different things, only to realize that different people believe totally different facts to be true about the situation. Let's at least come together. Why are we meeting? Because something is red that needs to be yellow, something's yellow that needs to be green. One of our longtime clients, Rod, finally got him to do this. because they were going back and reinventing the wheel every other month. He's like, man, you're so right. This is a game changer. I love meetings now. I love them. Fast forward a couple months, they were stuck at 6 figures for 10 years. That now has become their monthly target. What they do every month. Can you attribute all of this to simply better meetings? No, they did a bunch of other things too, but it is the rhythm. It is the ritual. Month after month, week after week, looking at the numbers, what's red that needs to be yellow, what's yellow that needs to be green. Same with Debbie. Generated more in Q3 than Q1 and 2 combined. What was the big change that they made? They got scorecards, and they started meeting regularly to discuss the scorecards. This isn't magic, y'all, and it's never one big thing. It is the consistent optimization of all of the little steps and stages within your value creation process that's gonna make the difference. But I still hate meetings. They still freaking suck. I don't want to go to them. That's fine. Remember this? Your job is to execute the projects that turn red to yellow and yellow to green. There will come a day where you will show up to these weekly meetings, and you will learn about red metrics after they've already become yellow or green. And when this starts to happen and you're adding no value to that meeting, I give you permission to opt out of said meeting. I go to almost no weekly meetings for any of our companies. I attend the quarterlies because I think they're fun and I can add strategic value. But I do not attend the other ones because I'm not in the trenches. I don't freaking know how to help. The team's got it. They got it. How do you know your team's got it? They can turn red to yellow and yellow to green without you. Last one, I'll make this quick. The last piece we need to optimize and systemize is the process of decision making. How do we ultimately get the shoulder taps off of you? Because at the end of the day, businesses move at the speed of good decision making. So we gotta have some process, some framework for making decisions. I said before, don't do a 2-day offsite with a bunch of trust falls just to talk about your mission, vision, and have it be entrepreneurial arts and crafts time. I still don't want you to do trust falls, but now is the time. Let's get crystal clear on all of these different things, and 4 things in particular, because every time you're making a decision, you're running it through these 4 cases. The company case. Will this get us closer to our stated goals? For your people to answer that question, what must they know? Your goals. Does everybody in your team know what your revenue and profitability targets are for the next couple of quarters, for the next 3 years? If not, we got to get that done. The customer case. Does it align with our company's overarching purpose and why? Do you have a stated vision? Do you have a stated purpose and why? Can they run it through that case? The culture. Does this align with our company's stated values? Do you have core values written out? And then lastly, the competitive case. This is the one most of us forget about. Can we actually pull this off? Are we playing to a strength? Have you taken the time to list out your company's competitive advantages, the stuff that you're really good at, and conversely, the things you kind of suck at? And do you run that through a filter? Should we do this project, shoulder tap? I don't know, is it gonna get us closer to our company's goals? Yes or no? Yes. Does it align with our overarching mission, purpose? Yes. Does it align with our core values for our business, for our employees? Are they gonna dig on it? Yes, they do. Can we pull it off? Can we expect to win? Are we playing to a strength? Yes. We call this a clarity compass because this is how we lay it out. The 3-year target at the top, purpose at the bottom, core values, strategic anchors, because it should be your company purpose that pushes you, motivates your team towards that 3-year target, but it is the values and what we call the strategic anchors, those core competitive advantages that keeps you on track. All of this could and should be stored in the goals section of Trainual. We also print it out. We put it on a basic PDF. We print it out and take it to all the meetings. Because anytime it's like, I don't know, what should we do? The question is always, did we run it through the clarity compass? Hey boss, you got a minute? Yes, well, what's up? Well, I want to get your feedback on this. Cool, happy to talk about it. Did you run it through the clarity compass yet? Oh, not yet, let me go do that. Okay, go do that, let me know what you come up with. You know what, we figured it out, never mind. If you will give your people a framework for how you make decisions, believe it or not, they will make decisions as good or even better than you. They'll have your framework for making decisions, but they'll have their in the trenches context for doing it. So what's the goal when all this is done? So I love what Chris said, we're so aligned on this. Take a real 30-day vacation in the next 6 to 9 months. No meetings, no email, no Slack, no nothing. This is the ultimate test for a company operating system. And so one of our clients, Kay, was able to do, she's like, I'm obsolete. I'm obsolete. And to a certain extent, there can be an identity crisis there. But Kay, after decades, was able to retire her husband, who had been turning wrenches in their home services business for decades, and he just wanted to be done with it. But nobody would buy their business. And Kay said, I'm going to step up. I'm going to make this thing systemized so that somebody will buy it. And not only were they able to take that vacation, but a couple years after she posted this, they sold their business for way more money than they can possibly spend in the rest of their life, according to Kay. And I want that for people. Here's your final checklist. All right, this is your step. Map the company's value engines, growth and fulfillment. You can add more later. Just give me 2 for now. Document checklists and SOPs for the 5 to 7 most critical processes based on those. You can add more later, but let's start with your value creation flow. Assign clear roles and areas of accountability for all those tasks, and again, auditing the value engines. Build your company scorecard. Define your company's meeting rhythm. Define your goals, purpose, and values, but do it last. Do it last. Evaluate it last. You'll be, I think, impressed and excited about how much more you can do once you realize how your company creates values. And then lastly, install your upgraded operating system. Again, shameless, but we're all here. The solution that we use and that we recommend, the ultimate holder for a business operating system is Trainual. So if you're not on that platform and you're here, I think pretty much most of you who are here are already customers, so I'm preaching to the choir. But this is more than just SOPs. Everything that I just described can absolutely be there, and that can be your centralized hub for how the business works, and that can create the ultimate freedom. In terms of next steps, normally this is where I would try to convince you all to go out and buy my book. Good news, we already bought it for you. So if you're a VIP, we got some back here, and if you're not, I believe we have a number of copies of the book back at the Trainual booth. Just go grab it. It is definitely our gift to you. Any of the resources that you saw, including the scorecard that we use, templates, those are available there totally for free. Getscalable.com/resources. And I know this was fast. If you got any questions for me, that is my personal email address. Just don't be weird, okay? I don't normally give this out, but I'm trusting you all that it's going to be cool, all right? But if you do have any questions, seriously, you're my people. You are. Yeah, you're my people, and I want to see you win. I care deeply about that. I really, really, really do. And hopefully you found some of this helpful. With that said, I'm going to get the heck out of your way, let you go take a break. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you.
Keep it going for Ryan Deiss, everybody. Keep it going.
Good job, dude. Awesome.
Oh, wow.